Here's my first update. You know, I said I've got to put a new radiator in this, and the radiator won't have that hose going into it for the heater core. They got a crazy, setup on these Pontiacs. The new, you go up. I think in '61, definitely in '61, they had changed this out, and so the water pump was different. You didn't have these deals, and water pump of this thing, you can buy them for about 150, 160 bucks rebuilt. They have some new old stock ones that you can get for less, but I'm not too sure about them. I'm going to stick with this for the time being. I checked it out. It seems okay. There's no noise or anything, but that's not what this video is about. So, because I was going to eliminate that water hose coming out of the radiator, it's that old shit radiator, but it would come out of there. In my other video, I was showing how that all worked. I was going to have to, cap this off, take this out and put a plug in there, screw-in plug. And believe it or not, this took a 22 millimeter. I don't know why. It looked more like 7/8, but 22 millimeter is the only thing I could get on it. And I heated it up with a torch. I didn't use this. I used, the blaster stuff. But after heating it up and playing with it, I finally, said, okay, let's see. And presto, damn thing broke right off on me. So I says, crap. Now, I figured out a way to fix it, but that would have cost practically nothing, and I think it would have worked, and I'll tell you how that would be. But I immediately says, I've got to, put threads in that thing. And I couldn't get it going, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Went down to Harbor Freight, went in. They had a kit you could buy that was basically up to tax $100, and I didn't even know if they had, they had this size in there, but what quality would be, I really don't know, and I didn't want to spend $100, so I left there. I went down to Lowe's, went into Lowe's, went and saw what kind of taps they had. They had nothing even close to this. And they sold a kit at Lowe's that was like more than $100 and had less than the kit at Harbor Freight. So, but at Lowe's I did buy this. This was like $4 and some change. Then I went Ace Hardware. I went in there, and the last, I'm looking at what they had, and I thought they're not gonna have it either, until all of a sudden I looked down at the very bottom of one of those end caps, and hanging very, not where you're gonna see it. Bingo, perfect. So I got this, and I came home, and I went in there, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not get this thing to start. It wouldn't start. So then I thought, I'm going to experiment a little bit. So I went back in the house, and I took this broke piece, and I put it in a vise, and I got this in there, and I started, twisting it in. I started off using just a plain ratchet, but then I got this. Believe it or not, I found this thrown in a recycled, one of those recycled cans that they ship the recycled metal over to China. And I don't know how old it is, but I like it. I don't know if you can read that or not, but one of you tool experts would know exactly what it is. But I know this is what it's used for, what I'm doing. So, I had no problem getting, this went in. I didn't have to do anything, and I got threads cut in here, and that will screw right in. And I thought, what the heck's going on? These threads don't look so good, but it would screw in, you know? So I came back out and proceeded to try again and again and again, but I couldn't get it to start. So that's when I decided to try something else. Got my drill, and I'm not going to stick it in there, but I put it in, and I did kind of like, that, and reamed it out a little bit. And I had to do it a few times. I just kept taking a little bit off at a time, but it turned out that that's what it needed. And then this went in, and then I got up here and I stood in the, inside the engine compartment on the rail there, the frame support, and just started working this thing. Yeah, also I had to, take the valve cover off, the dipstick, move this over, take this off, and, so I could have room, so this wouldn't be banging on stuff when you're, turning it. When I got up here, I had to push down with a lot of my weight and what little muscle I got to get it to start cutting. And I had to, exert a lot of downward pressure along with turning it at the same time. And then you'd get so far, and then you'd turn it, you'd turn it clockwise, and then you'd turn it back the other way. And I was using little motor oil. I got a square can over there, and I cut that groove, baby, and I am so happy. This screws in. I don't know, I might not, I'm not messing around with it here, but I tested it. It's going to work. Put a little maybe gasket, waterproof stuff on there, or silicone tape, whatever, and it'll be all right. When I finally get the radiator, I'm gonna reflush this thing using the old radiator. What do you want? Yeah, he's someplace crying, but there he is. Lately, he's been getting under my feet. And because of that, I've stepped on his tail a couple times. This is like never happened before, but he's getting old and he just hangs around me a lot. And wow, does he let out with a yell. And then he gets kind of nervous of me, but he's a good boy. So, yeah, I'm going to flush the block out really good. I got my big vac out yesterday, and I would hold my hand over here, and I had this capped off, and that's why I had this here. I sucked everything out of there because, I know that there's some metal filings that went down in there, and I don't want them getting trapped because of the way they got this weird system for the cooling system in these engines, the 59 and before. But I wish he could help me. I was a little bit depressed when that thing snapped off, but then I got it fixed. I was like feeling so good. Now this is after I got it fixed, well, when I started having trouble with this, and I was saying, man, I don't know if I'm going to get this to work, I came up with another idea, and I know it would have worked. And all I had, because, I got me a little mirror and a flash, and I could, I can almost reach that hole just with my finger getting it through here. And I was figuring I could get me a kind of a plug, kind of like that would have a stem that would come up, but would plug that hole from underneath. Maybe like, good rubber, so that you got that there and you got something that's holding it up firm from inside here, imagine you got like a stick or something wedged in here, and it's holding this rubber plug that's, inside up against that tight. And then you put, that liquid steel down in here, and you just let it set. And that's going to fill the hole. And then when this thing's under pressure, it's capped off from underneath. And I probably could have found something kicking around here. I got that liquid steel stuff. I use it a lot. But I got, I'd probably find something around here, some kind of plug that would have fit perfect. Wouldn't have cost me a dime. This here these two things, all in all, you could say cost me $15. So that ain't bad. And I didn't go spend $100 on that big rig set. And so, check around if you need something like that. And I was talking to my wife about it and how lucky we are to be alive nowadays. You can go down, you can go to Lowe's, you can go to Home Depot, you can go to Ace Hardware, you can go to Tractor Supply, you can go to all kinds of places online, and if you need it, you can probably find it. And I can't imagine trying to do all this, well, I did back in the old days, and sometimes it was hard to find stuff. But again, at that time, I wasn't looking for obsolete parts. Yeah, you can't step on that. But having said all that, I want to just close with this. All the time I see people, this thing here, I've been working on it and I've done a lot to it, and I still, have issues constantly. But there isn't a day of the week you don't see somebody on YouTube, constantly, and they're saying, barn find. I just pulled this out of a junkyard. It's been sitting 75 years, 50 years, 40 years, whatever. But these old cars, a lot of them are from the 40s and 50s like this, or early 60s, and they say, hasn't been started in 30 years, 40 years, and so on. And they just go and pull the plugs, pull and clean the plugs, charge the battery, make sure there's oil in it, maybe squirt something down in the cylinders, play around with a little bit, and these things start up and they drive away in them. And they say they haven't sat, they've been sitting, but I've seen them, and I don't even know if they bothered to put fresh points in the things. I kind of just find a lot of this hard to believe. I understand, stuff like that can happen. Sure, why not? But there's just too many of them for me. I'd like to know the truth behind it all. If they all just, crank up that easy, it's like talking about Lazarus coming back from the dead, I don't know, but it's fun watching them, and you do learn a lot of stuff watching those shows. So that's about it for the day, and that's that's why I'm calling it. I was stretching my bones yesterday, and before the day was over, I broke a bone, but we got it fixed. Didn't cost too much. Have a great day, everybody. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment.